He was never meant to rule, not officially, not publicly. For much of his early life, the world barely knew he existed. Yet today, Kim Jong Un is one of the most feared and mysterious leaders alive, a man who commands nuclear weapons, controls the fate of millions, and has captured the attention of global superpowers. Born into a family dynasty, one of the most secretive nations on Earth, Kim Jong Un's rise to power, a tale of calculated grooming, ruthless ambition, and brutal consolidation. It's a story woven with deception, death, and diplomacy, and it begins in complete silence. Officially, Kim Jong Un's birth date is January 8, 1984, or 1983, or even 1982. The regime has never confirmed the exact year. Details about his early life were deliberately hidden, even within North Korea. He was the third and youngest son of Kim Jong-il, the reclusive and eccentric leader of North Korea, and Ko Young-ho, a Japanese-born ethnic Korean who was reportedly a favorite among Kim Jong-il's partners. While his older half-brother Kim Jong-nam was the expected heir, Kim Jong-un lived in the shadows. He was sent to a private school in Switzerland under a false identity, reportedly using the name Pakin, and registered as the child of a North Korean embassy worker. His classmates remember him as shy and introverted, a boy who struggled with English and German, but had a deep passion for basketball. He idolized Michael Jordan and was often seen wearing NBA jerseys and sketching scenes from games in his notebooks. Though he was thousands of miles away from Pyongyang, the regime never took its eyes off him. He was constantly watched, guarded, and controlled. Every move he made was documented and reported back to his father. He wasn't just being educated, he was being prepared. By the early 2000s, Kim Jong-il began seriously thinking about succession. His health was deteriorating, and his oldest son, Kim Jong-nam, had fallen out of favor after a humiliating incident where he was caught using a fake passport to visit Tokyo Disneyland. The embarrassment was too much for the regime to overlook. That's when eyes turned to Kim Jong-un. He was still young, barely in his 20s, but his resemblance to his grandfather Kim Il-sung, the founder of North Korea, was striking. He had the same facial features, the same presence, the same aura of authority. And Kim Jong-il believed that resemblance mattered. Around 2009, Kim Jong-un was quietly appointed to key military and political posts. The inner circle was notified. He was to be the future leader. State media began using terms like the respected general and brilliant comrade. A personality cult was beginning to take shape, just like it had for his father and grandfather. In December 2011, Kim Jong-il died of a heart attack. The nation plunged into a carefully orchestrated period of mourning. Images of soldiers weeping in the snow flooded the screens. Foreign analysts scrambled to understand what would happen next. And then came the announcement: Kim Jong-un was the new supreme leader. The world watched in disbelief. He was just 27 years old, no real military experience, no significant political background. A man whose existence had been barely acknowledged was now leading a nuclear-armed state. Many thought he would be a puppet, controlled by senior party officials or military generals. They were wrong. Within months, Kim Jong-un began asserting total control. One of his first targets was his own family. In 2013, he ordered the execution of his powerful uncle, Jang Song-thaek, who had been acting as a sort of regent during the transition. The charges were vague corruption, treason, but the message was clear: Kim Jong-un was no figurehead. In 2017, he went even further. His half-brother Kim Jong-nam, who had lived in exile for years, was assassinated in a Malaysian airport using a deadly nerve agent. Two women likely tricked into believing they were part of a prank show were caught on CCTV rubbing the poison onto his face. The operation was cold, sophisticated, and unmistakably North Korean. By now, any doubts about Kim Jong-un's grip on power had vanished. He had eliminated rivals, cemented loyalty, and reasserted control over the military and the party. But he wasn't just consolidating internally, he was also making moves that would send shockwaves through the international community. Under Kim Jong Un's leadership, North Korea ramped up its nuclear program. Between 2013 and 2017, the regime conducted multiple missile launches and nuclear tests, including a powerful hydrogen bomb in 2017 that triggered a 6.3 magnitude earthquake. Each test defied international sanctions and provoked global outrage. But inside North Korea, these actions were framed as acts of strength and sovereignty. And then, in a stunning twist, diplomacy emerged. In 2018, Kim Jong Un crossed the border into South Korea to meet President Moon Jae-in. It was the first time a North Korean leader had set foot in the South since the Korean War. The image of the two leaders holding hands on the demarcation line was broadcast around the world. Later that year, he shocked the globe again by meeting face-to-face with U.S. President Donald Trump in Singapore. It was an unprecedented moment, the leader of the most powerful nation in the world shaking hands with the head of one of the most isolated regimes. They smiled for cameras, pledged peace, and promised denuclearization, but the optimism didn't last. Subsequent meetings in Hanoi and the DMZ failed to produce any concrete results. Talks collapsed. North Korea returned to missile tests, and the cycle of threats and sanctions resumed. Despite the breakdown, Kim Jong Un had already achieved something no North Korean leader ever had: global legitimacy. He had been treated as an equal by the President of the United States. He had shifted the narrative from rogue dictator to strategic negotiator. Behind the scenes, life in North Korea remained unchanged. The regime's grip on its people continued. Human rights violations, political prison camps, forced labor, and censorship were widespread. A brutal surveillance state ensured absolute loyalty. Defectors who managed to escape painted a bleak picture of famine, indoctrination, and fear. Kim Jong Un maintained control, not just through repression, but also through spectacle. Lavish parades, massive public rallies, synchronized performances, all were used to display strength and unity. His image appeared everywhere, on posters, in textbooks, on television. He was not just a leader, he was portrayed as a near-divine protector. But in 2020, the facade began to crack. The COVID-19 pandemic hit, and North Korea sealed its borders. Trade with China plummeted. The economy, already fragile under sanctions, was pushed to the brink. Rumors of food shortages, inflation, and even famine began to circulate. For months, Kim Jong Un vanished from public view, sparking speculation about his health. Then, in April 2020, he reappeared, walking slowly, but smiling. Since then, he has restructured his image. In 2021, he unveiled a slimmer appearance and began focusing more on domestic development, technology, and agriculture. But he hasn't abandoned military ambitions. North Korea continues to develop hypersonic missiles, long-range ICBMs, and new submarine-based weapons. The nuclear threat still looms large. Kim has also begun grooming the next generation. Most notably, his daughter, believed to be around 10 years old, has been increasingly featured in public appearances. State media has praised her presence, prompting speculation that she could one day succeed her father, continuing the dynasty into a fourth generation. Kim Jong Un's leadership is a study in contradictions. He projects modernity while enforcing repression. He courts diplomacy while threatening war. He smiles for the cameras, then orders executions. In many ways, he has become the perfect embodiment of North Korea itself: enigmatic, dangerous, and resistant to change. His rise to power was swift, brutal, and unexpected. His reign has defied every prediction, and his legacy, still being written, will shape the fate of the Korean Peninsula and the world for years to come. Because behind the black suit, the awkward haircut, and the deceptive smile lies one of the most calculated rulers of our time, a man who turned secrecy into strategy and isolation into power.